The laughter still rang in my ears. Not just from tonight, but from years before. Echoes from family dinners, backhanded jokes, fake smiles that held venom, and eyes that always watched me like I was the unfinished one. The failure. They almost made it cousin. The girl who had big dreams and no money to back them up. This time, it was louder.
Public.
And it cut deeper. Wait, you still live in that apartment downtown? Taylor chuckled, her voice sharp like glass. You poor thing. I thought you'd have upgraded by now. I mean, you've been trying for how long now? The others joined in. Half-hearted giggles. That kind of pity laugh where no one wants to seem cruel, but no one wants to be the only one defending you either. It was Olivia's engagement party. Of course. The golden child. My cousin. The one who always got the good grades, the right jobs, the right man. And now, she was marrying into money. The kind of wealth that makes people hold their champagne glasses a little higher just to show they belong. I didn't. Not tonight. Maybe not ever in their eyes. I wore a black midi dress I got on clearance last year, paired with heels that pinched at the toes. I'd saved up for weeks to buy something nice for this party. And I still looked like I didn't fit in. Brooklyn, someone called. I think it was Aunt Cheryl, her voice tinged with forced kindness. You should come take a picture with us. Olivia wants everyone in it. Well, immediate family, of course. I blinked. Immediate family?
Was I not?
I'm good, I managed, offering a small smile. My voice didn't even shake. I was proud of that. Oh, okay, Cheryl said, too quickly, already turning away. It's just, we don't want to crowd the frame. Crowd the frame. I stepped out onto the porch, the crisp air biting my skin. It was late December in Virginia. Cold, but clear. The stars were out. I wrapped my arms around myself, phone still clutched in my hand. No missed calls. No texts. No one had asked if I was okay. The music buzzed through the windows. I could hear them laughing again. This time about Olivia's honeymoon in Bora Bora. I remembered when we were little girls sitting in her backyard, talking about dream vacations. I said Bora Bora. She said Paris. I smiled, told her I'd show her photos when I made it there someday. She just smiled and said, "You always say that."
And now?
She was going to my dream place. I wasn't even going to Christmas dinner this year. Brooklyn. A voice called softly behind me. It was my mother. I turned, hoping for something, maybe warmth, maybe support. She looked tired, like she didn't want to be the one talking to me. Could you not sulk, please? This is Olivia's night. I stared at her. I'm not sulking. She sighed. Then come back inside. Stop making people uncomfortable. I blinked again. So that's what I was now. Uncomfortable. A disturbance. No, I said quietly. I think I'm gonna head out. She didn't stop me. Not even a drive safe. I grabbed my coat from the chair near the door and walked past a group of guests who barely noticed me. Taylor caught my eye, raised her eyebrows. Heading home already? She asked, loud enough for a few others to hear. I nodded.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe next time you'll stay longer, when there's something to celebrate. There it was. The final jab. I smiled. Maybe. And I left. No music. No GPS. I knew the way home by heart. That cracked corner near 14th Street, the gas station that smelled like burnt coffee, the little bakery that always closed too early. My apartment was small. 1 bedroom. The heater rattled like it was on its last breath. I had 3 plants, all half dying, and a dream that was barely holding on. I sat on the couch, heels kicked off, coat still wrapped around me. I checked my phone again. Nothing. I knew what they all thought. That I was too ambitious. That I'd chased too many things and caught nothing. I'd started a candle business. Didn't make it past 6 months. Then tried freelance graphic design. I had a few clients, but nothing steady. Last year, I worked as a part-time assistant for a real estate firm. No benefits. This year, I was making deliveries for an app. Saving every dollar. Not for clothes or vacations. For a plan. A plan they didn't know about. Because I didn't tell them. Because they didn't ask. A week later, I saw the house listing. It was Olivia's parents' house, the same one where the engagement party was hosted. Beautiful colonial style, white trim, expensive wood, for bedrooms, oversized windows, wraparound porch, a dream. And it was listed. I blinked. I refreshed the page. For sale by owner. Reduced price. It didn't make sense. Until it did. I called a contact from my brief time at the real estate firm, Marcus, a kind older man who always believed in me even when I was just fetching coffee. Brooklyn, he said, surprised. Long time. You okay? I'm fine. I saw a listing. I want to make an offer. But I need to know why they're selling. He hesitated. They're in trouble. IRS audits. Some bad debt from a business investment gone wrong. Trying to liquidate quietly. I didn't smile. Not yet. How much? I asked. When he told me, I almost dropped the phone. I had that amount. Every delivery. Every skipped dinner. Every cut corner moment. It added up. I said, I want it. Cash.
Cash.
Brooklyn, are you sure? I looked around my apartment. The dream board. The calendar with goals scratched in red ink. The savings spreadsheet taped to my fridge. I'm sure. 3 weeks later, I closed on the house. They didn't know who bought it. Marcus handled everything quietly. My name wasn't mentioned until the paperwork was finalized. I walked through the empty hallways, the same ones where they laughed. Where they told me I wasn't family enough. Where I took off my coat and walked away into the cold. Now I had the keys. And I wasn't leaving. My name is Brooklyn Taylor, born and raised in Richmond, Virginia, in a family that loved appearances more than they ever loved people. From the outside, we looked like the perfect middle-class American family. Cookouts in the backyard, matching holiday pajamas, Sunday church smiles. But if you paid attention like I always did, you could hear the cracks in between every bite of casserole. Especially when it came to me. I was the second best everything. Second best daughter. Second best student. Second best at being liked. And, unfortunately, the only child of a mother who wished I came out more like her niece Olivia. Olivia and I were close once. At least I thought we were. We were only a year apart in age. She was born in June. I came in August. Our birthdays were always a joint event growing up. Until around age 12, when people started giving her bigger presents. I still remember the year she got a pink bicycle and I got socks. Not even nice ones. Just a pack of 5 from Walmart. I smiled anyway. That was the rule. Always be grateful, Brooklyn. Mom whispered sharply as I looked down at my unwrapped gift. Don't embarrass me. I was always scared of embarrassing her. So I smiled. Every time. In school, I worked harder than most. Not because I was a genius, but because I had to be. I stayed up late doing extra credit. Tutored classmates. Worked part-time at the campus bookstore in high school, while Olivia was out being crowned homecoming queen. When I got a scholarship to a state college, I remember how proud I felt. Until the family dinner that weekend. Wow. Uncle Jeff said, slicing into a steak. Olivia got into Yale and Brooklyn got a scholarship for what was it again? Business arts. Business design. I corrected softly. Oh, he said. Right. Nobody asked any more questions after that. But I kept going. I graduated. Barely. Took out loans. Got a car that coughed smoke when it started. Lived with 3 roommates. Hustled every day. Meanwhile, Olivia got a brand new SUV for her birthday. Her graduation present? A condo. Fully furnished. Paid in full. I tried not to be bitter. I really tried. But I couldn't ignore how differently we were treated. How my mother looked at her with more softness than she ever gave me. How every family gathering became a stage for Olivia's updates. She got promoted again. She's starting a non-profit. She's dating a dentist, can you believe it? No one asked about my projects. My late nights. My little wins. They weren't shiny enough. There's one memory I keep close. The day I brought my first handmade candles to Christmas dinner. I designed the labels myself. Mixed the scents from scratch. Poured the wax into jars I cleaned and reused. I even added handwritten notes. From my heart to your home. I gave one to each person at the table. Isn't that sweet? Aunt Cheryl said, barely looking at hers. Very. Etsy. Olivia unwrapped hers. Wrinkled her nose. Lavender and cedarwood? It's a bit strong. I didn't say anything. I just nodded and sat back in my chair. A week later, I saw Olivia's Instagram story. The same jar, with the label peeled off, posted as a cute vintage container, she repurposed for makeup brushes. Not a single mention of me. Still, I kept showing up. Every birthday. Every graduation. Every last-minute gathering where I was told to bring dessert like I wasn't a guest, just extra hands. I'd bring pies I couldn't afford. Smile when they asked if I was still trying that creative stuff. Laugh politely when someone joked, you should ask Olivia for a job. She could use an assistant. And my mother? She never said a word in my defense. Not once. It wasn't just about Olivia, either.
It was about patterns.
Like how they always forgot to include me in the group texts, or how they'd tell me about events after they'd already happened. We assumed you were busy, Brooklyn. Like how my birthday became a footnote, always wrapped inside someone else's celebration. I remember once Mom called me and said, we're having a brunch for Cheryl this Sunday, and hey, we can throw in a little cake for your birthday too, since it's around the same time. A little cake. I said okay. I always said okay. Until I stopped. It took me a long time to realize this wasn't about me being a failure. It was about them needing someone to play the role of the failure. Someone to look down on. To feel better than. To whisper about after dinners. To hold up as an example of what not to do. And I, too desperate to be loved, kept stepping into the role like it was the only stage I'd ever get. I let them have their laughs. But I never stopped building quietly. While Olivia posted pictures from Paris, I was watching free tutorials on SEO. While they were sipping wine and gossiping about celebrities, I was learning how to pitch clients on Zoom. When they were laughing about my candle thing, I was learning how to scale a product on Etsy, then Shopify, then Amazon. Sure, some of it failed, but not all of it. They don't know this, but last summer, I sold a custom design package to a wellness startup for $22,000. My biggest sale. I never told anyone. Not because I was hiding, but because I finally understood they didn't want to see me win. So I stopped inviting them to the game. I worked in silence. I rented cheap spaces to host workshops. I taught myself how to invest in tax liens. I began networking with people who actually saw my value, who weren't related to me. And when the moment came, when that house showed up on the market, I was ready. Not out of revenge, but out of readiness. And yet some nights, I still cried. I still wish someone had noticed, had cared,
Had said,
I'm proud of you. But no one did. Not then. So I became someone who didn't need to hear it anymore. I gave myself the applause they refused to give. I clapped in my own mirror. I toasted to my own milestones. I hugged myself when no one else would. It was late October when the final cut came, disguised in the soft voice of someone who used to rock me to sleep. Mom called one chilly Thursday evening. I was restocking labels in my small warehouse studio, the one no one in my family had ever seen. Hey, Brooklyn, she began, her voice light, cautious. So, about Thanksgiving. I smiled, wiping wax residue from my hands. Yeah? I was thinking I could host this year. I've got space now. Silence. Then, oh, sweetheart, Olivia's already hosting. We've all decided to do it at her place. I paused. Everyone? All of you? Yes, she said quickly. It's just easier, you know? She has the bigger kitchen and, well, she already made plans. Plus, your cousins are flying in and want to stay close. I let the silence speak.
But she didn't stop.
I just didn't want it to be awkward, she added, trying to soften the blow. It's nothing personal. It's just what works best for everyone. Those words stuck like glass in my throat. It's nothing personal. It's just what works best for everyone. Everyone except me.
They hadn't even asked.
Not even a group text. No vote. No. Brooklyn, would you be okay with this? Just a quiet decision. A shut door. wrapped in polite excuses. My hands went still on the counter. I stared at the label sheet I had been about to peel. I understand, I said softly. Thanks for letting me know. Her relief came too fast. You're such a good sport. I knew you'd understand. I said nothing else. Just ended the call.
Set the phone down.
And for once, I didn't cry. I sat there for an hour in that warehouse. The only sound was the low hum of the fridge cooling my candle batches. The same fridge I bought secondhand after I landed that licensing deal no one knew about. Outside, the sky had turned black. The only light in the room was the flicker of my workstation lamp. That's when it happened. Not anger, not heartbreak, just quiet resolve. Like a door clicked shut inside me. Like a switch flipped in a part of my soul that had always waited for permission, for approval, for a seat at their table. I suddenly realized I didn't need their table anymore. I'd built my own. 2 days later, I got another message. From Cheryl, my mother's sister. A voice note. Hey, Brooklyn. Just wanted to say no hard feelings about Thanksgiving, okay? Olivia didn't mean anything by it. You know how she is, she likes things just so, and she doesn't want, too many people bringing dishes or cluttering the kitchen. I'm sure it wasn't personal. There it was again. That phrase. Not personal. Always so convenient. I didn't respond. I let the message sit there, a little monument to everything they thought I'd just keep swallowing. That Sunday, I got tagged in a Facebook album. Taylor Family Thanksgiving Planning Brunch. There they were. All of them. In Olivia's sun-drenched kitchen. Champagne glasses. Mimosas. Matching aprons. Even my younger cousin Lily, who used to call me her favorite big cousin, was posing in a photo with Olivia, captioned, "Excited for the big day with my role model." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed the app, deleted it, and took a walk through the neighborhood where my next property investment was about to close. The next week, Mom called again. Not about Thanksgiving. This time she needed something. "Brooklyn," she said, all breathless urgency. "Can you believe the plumbing burst at your grandma's old house? It's a mess. Olivia's trying to figure out if we should sell it or renovate." She trailed off, waiting for me to offer something. Money.
Time.
A plan.
For years I would have. But now?
Now I just said, "I'm sure you'll figure it out," and changed the subject. I could hear the confusion in her voice. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" I smiled. "I'm great, actually."
And I was.
Because I knew something they didn't. I had just signed paperwork that made me the silent investor in a real estate group acquiring that very neighborhood.
The same one their house sat in.
In the following weeks, the coldness from the family only grew. No one invited me to Thanksgiving. No one asked where I was. No one followed up. And yet, the silence wasn't empty. It was full. Full of my own peace. Full of the sound of candles being poured, orders being packed, clients renewing contracts. And one afternoon in late November, I received a message request on Instagram from a name I barely recognized. "Hi, Brooklyn. I just wanted to say thank you for what you said at that workshop last spring. I came with a friend, and I wasn't even supposed to be there, but you shared your story about rejection and resilience, and it made me cry. I bought your candle afterward, Reclaim, and every time I light it, I feel strong again.
I just wanted you to know that.
You matter. Even if your family never told you, you've changed mine." I read it 3 times. And then I cried. Not from sadness, but from the kind of joy that comes when someone sees you. Really sees you. A stranger had noticed what my own blood ignored. And that's when I knew they could keep their turkey, their table, their tight smiles and passive-aggressive praise. I had found something better.
Truth. And peace.
And my own seat, not at their table but at one I carved from scratch. Built with scarred hands and lit with candles no one believed in but me. After Thanksgiving passed without a single text, a single call, a single crumb of acknowledgement, I realized something. I didn't miss them. Not their drama. Not their backhanded compliments. Not the way I used to overthink what dish to bring, how to dress, how much to laugh, how little to speak, just to keep the peace. That year, I spent Thanksgiving in pajamas. I lit my best-selling Rooted and Rising candle, roasted a chicken for one, and watched the snow gently fall outside the large windows of the home I'd bought, the one no one ever asked to see. And when I went to bed that night, my soul wasn't aching. It was breathing. Something had shifted. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't bitterness. It was liberation. A quiet reclaiming of everything they had once taken for granted. My time, my loyalty, my silence, my energy. I began pulling back, not out of malice, but out of necessity. One by one, I removed my lifelines from them. The first thing I did was cancel the monthly allowance I used to send Mom, the one she never openly acknowledged but always expected. She called a week later. "Brooklyn? I noticed the transfer didn't come through. Was there an issue with your account?" "No," I replied calmly. "I just stopped it." Silence. "You what?" "I stopped it," I repeated, pouring wax into a mold. "I realized it wasn't serving me anymore." Her voice cracked into disbelief. "But you've always—" "I know," I interrupted softly. "That's why I stopped."
Click.
The silence after that was delicious. Next, I unfollowed them all on social media. Every cousin, every sibling, even Olivia. No announcements. No petty posts. Just quiet clicks of freedom. I changed my number too. Only a handful of close friends got the new one. Suddenly, the messages stopped. No more guilt tripping. No more fake concern. No more manipulative check-ins disguised as "just wanted to see how you were doing." And in that absence, I flourished. My business boomed. I partnered with a luxury hotel chain for a custom candle line. I started speaking at retreats. My face was on wellness magazine covers. I hired a team, moved into a renovated warehouse loft with exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a rooftop garden. I donated anonymously to women's shelters. I mentored young creators. I finally took that solo trip to Sedona and watched the sunrise from the edge of a red rock cliff, breathing in the peace that only comes when no one owns a piece of you anymore. And still, I said nothing to them, because I didn't need them to know I was thriving. That wasn't the point. One cold January morning, Olivia's name appeared in my email inbox. Subject line: "Hey sis, can we talk?" I didn't open it. I just deleted it. Because I finally understood. I don't owe anyone access to me just because we share DNA. A few weeks later, Cheryl, my aunt, called from an unknown number. I answered, thinking it might be a business call. "Oh, Brooklyn, thank God. I didn't think you'd pick up." "What's wrong?" I asked, already sensing where this was going. She sighed. "Your mom's upset. The family, we're just confused. You've disappeared." I let the silence sit for a moment. "Brooklyn," she prompted. "I didn't disappear," I said quietly. "I just stopped participating in things that made me feel invisible." There was a long pause. "I don't think anyone meant to hurt you," she said eventually. "But they did," I replied. "And it's not my job to make them feel better about it."
Click.
My therapist, because yes, I finally started therapy, said something that stuck with me. Silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's your soul telling you it finally feels safe. And mine did. I started waking up with peace, not dread. Stopped scanning every interaction for signs of disapproval. Stopped over-explaining, over-giving, over-justifying. I hosted my own birthday party that spring. Not one family member was invited. My friends came, the ones who showed up for me in quiet ways over the years. The ones who helped me pack orders at 2 a.m., brought soup when I was sick, or hyped my wins louder than anyone else. We danced on the rooftop until midnight, laughed like teenagers, ate cake with our fingers, lit candles, and made wishes no one else needed to validate. It was the first time in my life I celebrated myself without guilt, without apology, without needing anyone's permission. And the most beautiful part? I didn't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. Not my worth, not my success, not my heart. My silence wasn't about keeping secrets. It was about choosing peace over performance. I wasn't hiding. I was healing. And the more I healed, the more I saw the truth. They weren't mad because I left. They were mad because I didn't beg to come back. The irony? The same week my story was featured in Forbes Women, Olivia's neighborhood petitioned against a rezoning project I was quietly funding. I attended the town hall in a tan trench coat, red lipstick, and sat in the back. No one recognized me. Until the very end, when the lead realtor presented the ownership documents. Brooklyn Taylor.
CL.
Investor. Property holder. Olivia's eyes locked with mine from across the room. And I just nodded once, gently. Not with revenge, but with calm recognition. I didn't speak to her afterward. Didn't smile smugly. Didn't offer an olive branch. I just got into my car. The one they once laughed at when I couldn't afford anything but a beat-up Civic, now a sleek electric coupe, and I drove home. To the life I built. To the peace they never gave me. To the silence they once feared. Now my greatest strength. I wasn't looking to be seen. That was never the goal. But life, as it often does, has a way of circling back, bringing unexpected people into your story, ones with no old lens, no past bias, no inherited judgment. And this time, it came in the form of a woman named Haley Monroe, a local journalist and podcast host. She'd reached out through my brand's website contact form. Subject line: The woman who built herself. Her message was short, but powerful. Hi, Brooklyn. I've followed your business quietly for a while, from local artisan markets to your current hotel collaborations. Your growth has been breathtaking. But what stayed with me most isn't just your success, it's your grace. I don't know your story, but I feel it in every product, every post. I'd love to invite you on my show to talk about your journey, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a woman who walked through fire and somehow came out softer, not harder. No pressure. Warmly, Haley. I read it 3 times. Then sat still for a long time. Someone saw me not as a role I played, not as a utility to use, not as an obligation, but as a human being. Whole. Worthy. And she didn't even know half of it. We met at a cozy downtown cafe. Haley had warm brown eyes, a calm energy, and a notebook full of thoughtful questions. But what stood out most was this. She didn't ask about my family. Not once. She asked about me. What kept me going, what I was afraid of, how I dealt with loneliness, how I poured love into others without running dry. She asked why I named my candle line Rooted and Rising. I told her the truth. Because I was always the root in other people's lives. Holding everyone up. Steady. Silent. But I never gave myself permission to rise. Until I had no choice. Until staying buried became more painful than growth. She blinked hard, then smiled softly. Brooklyn, I think you just gave words to something a lot of women feel but never say. Her podcast aired a month later. It went viral. Not because I cried. Not because I spilled family secrets. I didn't. But because for the first time, I let the world see the woman behind the resilience. The day after it aired, I received hundreds of messages. From strangers. From fellow creators. From women who had been overlooked, used, discarded by the very people they loved most. But one message stopped me cold. It was from Olivia's husband's sister, Jenna. A woman I hadn't seen in years. Hi, Brooklyn. I don't know if you remember me, but I've followed your journey quietly. I just listened to the podcast and had to say this. I always knew something wasn't right in the way your family treated you. I saw it during the holidays, at baby showers, at dinners. The way they dismissed you. How they rolled their eyes when you spoke. How your wins were ignored while others were celebrated for doing far less. You didn't imagine it. You weren't too sensitive. You were just too real for people who didn't want to face their own lack. I wish I had spoken up back then. But I see you now. And I'm so sorry. Jenna. I read it on my patio, tears slipping silently down my cheek. I hadn't asked for this validation, but it felt like balm. Not just because someone finally saw the truth, but because it came from someone inside the circle that had once rejected me. Someone who had witnessed the quiet cruelty. Someone who had remembered. Later that week, I received another unexpected message. From a woman named Dr. Elise Mendez, a renowned clinical therapist and speaker. She had discovered my brand while staying at a wellness retreat I'd partnered with. Her assistant placed a custom candle I designed, called To Bloom, in her guest room. She said the scent reminded her of her late mother. And when she found out the name behind it, she gasped. Because years ago, she told me, I had helped her mother in a grocery store parking lot. It was a random day. Raining. Her mother had slipped, dropped her bags. I'd pulled over, helped her up, walked her to the car, gave her one of the healing salves I'd just made in a trial batch, and disappeared before she could even get my name. Her mother had passed away since.
But she remembered me.
Recognized my face in the hotel's promotional materials. And now, here she was, reaching out to thank me. You didn't just help her stand up that day. You gave her dignity. And you left behind a kindness that lived far beyond the moment. I stared at her message for a long time. How many people had I helped in quiet, uncredited ways? How many times had I been the one lifting while no one saw me? And yet, the right people were finding me now. Not because I performed, but because I was simply being. A few days later, someone posted a comment on one of my videos. A teenager, maybe 17 or 18. You remind me of my big sister. She's the only one in our family who believes in me. They treat her like nothing. But she's my everything. I hope she becomes someone like you someday. And there it was again. The ripple effect. The unspoken legacy of choosing healing over hate. Of turning pain into light. Of becoming what you needed, even when no one gave it to you. The twist wasn't that I finally got recognition. It was that I realized I was never the problem. I wasn't too cold. I wasn't ungrateful. I wasn't dramatic. I was just different, unwilling to play a role that required me to shrink. The people who had painted me as selfish, bitter, unstable, they were projecting. Because I had the one thing they feared most. The courage to walk away from dysfunction, even if it meant walking alone.
And now?
Now I wasn't alone. I had built a new community. One where love wasn't earned through exhaustion. Where kindness wasn't conditional. Where silence wasn't punishment, it was protection. And I didn't need the whole world to know the truth.
Just a few people.
The right people. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person to say, I see you. I remember what they did. And I know you deserved better. The first message came in like a soft knock on a door you'd already closed for good. It was from Olivia. Not a phone call. Not even a voice note. Just a short text at 9:02 p.m. on a Tuesday. Hey, saw your podcast interview. You look good. Maybe we could talk sometime? I think we've both grown. Just want to clear the air. No apology. No ownership. Just that vague tone of let's reset, like nothing ever happened. Like years of humiliation and exclusion could be swept away with a shallow hey. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I no longer needed closure from people who only wanted control. 2 days later, Mom called. I stared at the screen for a full minute.
Mom.
The same woman who had told me, it's easier if you don't come. The one who had silently watched as they erased me from family photos, events, holidays. Now she was calling. When I didn't answer, she left a voicemail. Brooklyn, honey, it's your mother. I know we haven't talked in a while, but I saw that video of you online. It's all over Facebook. Even your Aunt Cheryl sent it to me. You've always been so creative. I'm glad things are going well. Listen, I know we've had misunderstandings. Families go through things. But maybe it's time we move past it. Life is short, you know? We're having a barbecue next Sunday. Olivia and Mason will be there. Would love to see you. I played it twice. Not once did she say the word sorry. Not once did she acknowledge the nights I cried alone. The birthdays spent wondering what I'd done wrong. The silence she gave when I needed support most. All she cared about was optics. Now that the world saw me as someone worth respecting, suddenly they wanted me back in the frame, but not because they'd changed. Because they were afraid of how they'd look without me. It wasn't just Olivia and Mom. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years started tagging me in old photos. Aunt Cheryl messaged me on Instagram. You were always our golden girl, B. Don't let internet fame make you forget your roots.
Roots?
The same roots they trampled when I was vulnerable? The The same family who let me sit in silence while everyone passed plates and prays like I didn't exist? Now they wanted to plant a new narrative, one where I was always loved, just misunderstood. One message struck me harder than the rest. It was from my father. We hadn't spoken in nearly 5 years. He never reached out when I was evicted, never showed up when I graduated from design school, never even acknowledged my candle business, not when it launched, not when it grew, not when it was featured in a luxury home magazine.
But
now that I was somebody, he messaged me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn. Brooklyn, I came across your profile. You've built quite an empire. Very proud of you. If you ever need help with logistics or sourcing, I have some contacts who could be valuable. Let's talk business sometime. Best. Dad. I sat back in my chair. For a moment, I didn't feel anger or sadness. I felt clarity. This wasn't about reconnection. This was about access. He didn't miss me. He missed the benefits of being connected to me. He missed the image of having a successful daughter, the kind he once told to get serious because art would never pay the bills. I didn't respond to any of them. Not because I was bitter, because I was finally clear. They weren't reaching out because they loved me. They were reaching out because they'd lost control of the story. They couldn't dismiss me anymore. The world saw me now. They couldn't twist the narrative. The truth had already found its way into the light. Weeks passed. Then one night, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was Mason, Olivia's husband. His voice was low, nervous. Hey, Brooklyn, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I didn't see it before. The way they talked about you, treated you, I thought that was just family stuff. But after your interview, and after watching how they tried to spin it now, I realized how wrong it all was. You didn't deserve any of it. I don't expect you to forgive anyone. I needed to say that. Take care. I played that one again, too. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. It came from someone who had benefited from the silence and now couldn't pretend anymore. A few days later, Olivia posted a photo on Facebook. A throwback to our childhood. Caption: Sisters by blood. Some bonds can't be broken, no matter the time or distance. It got hundreds of likes. Comments like, you two were always so close. I miss seeing you both together. Brooklyn is such a queen. Y'all need to reunite. For a moment, I considered saying something. Then I remembered. I don't owe them the truth. I already lived it. Let them spin their version. Let them rewrite the past. I wasn't in the business of correcting illusions anymore, because the people who mattered already knew. I wasn't the villain they once painted me to be, but I also wasn't their savior anymore. I didn't need to prove anything, didn't need to clear the air. I had already done the hardest thing. I walked away and didn't come back. And now their damage control? It wasn't about healing. It was about containment. Because the girl they once ignored had become the woman the world now listened to. And that scared them more than they'd ever admit. The first time I cried in months wasn't from pain. It wasn't from anger. It wasn't even from the memory of what they did to me. It was from something else entirely. Recognition. It came in the form of an envelope. A soft, cream-colored envelope with a golden seal, tucked into my studio mailbox on a rainy Tuesday morning. No return address. Just my name, handwritten in bold, looping script. Brooklyn Hart. I thought it was an invitation at first. Maybe another shallow reach out from a cousin, or someone trying to network now that my candle business had exploded. But it wasn't. Inside was a letter. 4 pages. Typed. Single-spaced. And it started with this. You don't know me, but I've known you for a long time. Your story saved my sister's life. I sat down on the floor of the studio. Rain tapped softly against the windows as I read. My name is Amanda Keller. I'm a nurse at the Children's Hospital in Denver. A few months ago, someone sent me the link to your podcast interview, the one where you talked about starting your business from nothing after losing everything. I was watching it in the break room during my shift. I almost skipped it, but something told me to listen. My heart pounded as I turned to the next page. You talked about how kindness was your only compass. How even when your own family turned away, you still made care packages for shelters. How you believed in lighting a candle in the dark, even if no one else noticed. And then the part that stopped me cold. 4 years ago, my younger sister was in a terrible car accident. She lost the ability to walk. She fell into a deep depression. I didn't know how to reach her. Until one day, someone dropped off a care package at her rehab center. It had one of your candles in it. It was called Still I Rise. She lit it every day for months. She used to say, "This scent makes me feel like I matter." She didn't know who made it. I didn't either. Until I saw your interview. And I recognized the label. I broke down in tears. You gave her something none of us could. Hope. And I just needed you to know. You didn't just save her. You saved me, too. I covered my mouth with both hands and wept. Not the way I used to cry, alone, hidden, silenced by shame. This was different. These tears were full of something else. Something pure. Validation. I reached out to Amanda via the email she left at the end of the letter. She responded the same day. She sent photos. Her sister, Sophia, now walking with braces, smiling in a graduation gown. In the background of one photo, I saw it. My candle. Still I Rise. Sitting on the shelf, half-used, surrounded by sunflowers. Amanda said she still lit it on hard days. She called it her bravery switch. That same week, my assistant forwarded me a voicemail from our customer service line. A woman named Clara had called in. Her voice was trembling. "Hi. I just wanted to thank Brooklyn. I've never met her, but I found one of her candles at a thrift store during a really bad week. My husband had just left. I was feeling invisible, but the candle label said, 'You are not forgotten.' And for some reason, I believed it. I believed it. I listened to it 3 times. Every word, every breath, felt like healing. Soon, I began receiving messages, not just from customers, but from strangers who'd watched the podcast interview, read the article in Women in Business Weekly, or seen the clip go viral on TikTok. One message stood out. "Brooklyn, I don't know your whole story, but I watched your video on mute while holding my baby. And something about your face made me feel less alone. I didn't even hear your words. Just saw you. And for the first time since giving birth, I didn't feel broken. Thank you." That one made me cry too, because it reminded me. Sometimes healing isn't loud. Sometimes it's a quiet light, like a candle in the dark. Months passed, and the momentum only grew. Retailers reached out to collaborate. A wellness brand asked if I'd create a signature scent for a limited edition box. I hired 6 more employees, most of them women who had been overlooked like I once was. I made sure every box we shipped carried a handwritten message. "You are seen. You are remembered. You matter." Then one morning, while sipping coffee on the porch, my neighbor, Mrs. Langford, came over with a folded newspaper. She smiled, her eyes warm. "Page 4, she said. "Bottom right." I opened it. There it was. A headline. "Local entrepreneur buys childhood home of former bullies, turns it into shelter for displaced girls." Underneath it, a photo of me, standing in front of the old colonial house I once stood outside of, tears in my eyes, told not to come inside. Now, it belonged to me. Not out of spite, out of purpose. I didn't just buy it to prove a point. I bought it to transform the place of my deepest pain into a safe haven. For every girl who had ever been told, "You don't belong." I gave the upstairs bedrooms new paint, soft blankets, books on every shelf. One of the girls, Marissa, 14 years old, peeked her head out one night and said, "Miss Brooklyn, I like the way it smells here. Like someone loves us." That smell was my candle. Still I Rise. I stood in the hallway, alone that night, and whispered aloud, "I love you too, baby girl. Even if no one else ever has." Not just to her. To the girl I once was. The one crying in the backseat of a car, wondering why no one came to her party. The one who gave everything and received silence in return. The one who lit candles in her dark room, hoping the warmth meant something. She had become the light for others. And that was the real full circle.
Not fame.
Not revenge. Legacy. People began telling each other about me. Not the version my family once painted, dramatic, difficult, ungrateful. But the truth.
Kind.
Quietly strong. Resilient beyond words. Not because I fought back, but because I kept showing up with love, long after I had every reason not to. And the most beautiful part? I never had to shout. I never had to prove. The kindness I'd given when no one was watching came back tenfold. Not from the people I once begged to see me, but from those I never expected. From strangers. From survivors. From girls who saw themselves in me. And for the first time in my life, I felt chosen. Not because of blood, but because of light. It came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the middle of prepping a new scent blend for the fall line, warm cinnamon, clove, and something soft like vanilla wood, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Voicemail. I ignored it. A minute later, a text arrived. No name. Just, "Hi, Brooklyn. It's your cousin Madison. Aunt Grace and Uncle Henry are coming into town this weekend. They'd love to see you. It's been too long. Maybe dinner at their place." My hands stopped moving. The cinnamon oil dripped slowly from the pipette, the scent thick in the air. I read the text again. And again. Then I set the phone down gently and kept working. That was the first of many. Within the next 2 weeks, I received a just checking in email from my mother. A Facebook message from my sister. "I saw your article.
Congrats.
Can we talk sometime?" A voice memo from my aunt, sounding almost teary. "We didn't realize how much pain we caused. Can we reset?" No apologies. No real acknowledgement. Just soft, vague nudges. Attempts to reel me back in. But not because they'd changed.
Because the story had changed.
Because now, the world saw me. And that made them nervous. I didn't reply to any of them. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. But because I had nothing to prove anymore. Their silence used to crush me. Now, mine set me free. Then came the final attempt. It was a Sunday. The air smelled like fall. Leaves scattered like confetti across the driveway. I had just finished helping one of the girls at the shelter, Ava, with her homework when my doorbell rang. I looked through the window. It was my mother, standing there, alone. No suitcase. Just a small leather purse and a look I couldn't quite place. Regret? Fear? Hope. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. We stood in silence for a long moment. She was the first to speak. "You've done really well for yourself." I nodded. No smile. No bitterness. Just a calm, grounded nod. "I didn't expect all this," she said, glancing behind me. "The house. The business. The girls." I said nothing. "Your cousin sent me the video of your talk. I watched it 3 times. Still, I didn't speak. She finally exhaled, her voice dropping. "Brooklyn, I know I made mistakes. I was just trying to do what I thought was best. But I see now how much I missed. How much I hurt you." A pause. "Can we start again?" I looked at her. This woman who once looked through me as if I was invisible. Who told me not to come to Thanksgiving because I'd ruin the mood. Who watched me break and said, "You're too sensitive." I looked at her not as a mother, but as a person. And for the first time, I saw her clearly.
Small.
Lost. Trying to rewrite a story she once authored in arrogance. I stepped forward, smiled gently, and said,
"No."
She blinked. Not in anger, in disbelief. I saw it in her eyes. She had rehearsed 1,000 outcomes. Anger.
Tears.
Hugs. Screaming. But not this. Not quiet. Not calm. Not power without performance. "No," she echoed. I nodded.
"No."
"We can't start again." I wasn't cruel. I wasn't even cold. I just wasn't willing to burn twice. I let her stand there, holding her own disappointment. I didn't offer to make it easier, because I'd spent too many years doing that. filling silences, soothing egos, absorbing blame. That version of me was gone.
Now,
I only made space for truth. She didn't fight, didn't plead, just nodded, slowly, then stepped back. I hope you're happy, she said. I smiled. I am. And I closed the door. No slam. No drama. Just a gentle click.
and peace.
Ava came into the hallway a few minutes later. Who was that? I smiled. Just someone from my past. She nodded. You okay? Better than okay. I walked her back to the kitchen, where the candles were cooling. The whole house smelled like cinnamon and healing. That night, I lit one of the new blends. Sat on the porch with a blanket. Watched the leaves fall. And for the first time in my life, I realized I didn't need reconciliation to have peace. I didn't need their understanding to be whole. I didn't need to be let back in. Because I had already walked through a better door. One I built myself. With light. With kindness. With self-worth. And when you finally own your worth, you stop begging others to rent it. I've been asked more times than I can count. Don't you miss them? Don't you want closure? Don't you feel sad that it ended like that? And the truth is, for a long time, I did. I missed them. I wanted closure. I begged the universe for just one moment, one sentence, to make it all make sense. But what I didn't realize back then was that closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. It's not something they hand you like a wrapped apology. It's something you choose when you finally stop waiting. I used to think I needed their love to be complete. That if they could just see me finally, then I'd matter. Then I'd be worthy. But here's what I know now. I was always worthy. They just weren't capable of recognizing it. And that's not my fault. It's not yours either. Sometimes people need you to be small, invisible, replaceable, because your light exposes the shadows they're not ready to confront. You didn't fail. You didn't fall short. You didn't ask for too much. You just outgrew the box they tried to trap you in. And when you stopped shrinking to fit inside it, they called you difficult, cold, dramatic, ungrateful. But none of that was ever true. To anyone watching this right now, especially the quiet ones, the overgivers, the ones who are always the afterthought, I need you to hear me. You are not too much. You are too real for people who pretend. You are not broken. You are breaking cycles. You are not unlovable. You are unbending in your worth. And the people who could never hold space for your truth, they don't get to rewrite your story now that the world finally sees it. If you've been left out, talked over, lied about, or laughed at when you had nothing, then listen to me. You are not alone. I was you. I cried on cold bathroom tiles so many nights I lost count. I questioned my own memory, my own value, because the people who were supposed to love me convinced me I was the problem. I almost gave up. Almost. But then something shifted. And if it hasn't yet for you, it will. Because here's what I've learned on the other side. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to fight to win. You don't have to explain yourself to be free. You can walk away with your head held high and never look back, and that can be the most graceful, sacred act of self-love you've ever made. I used to pray for them to call me. Now, I pray they find healing, but far away from me. Because some wounds don't need reopening. They need honoring. And some no's are not cold. They're holy. You may not own the house they laughed at you in. You may not be able to buy back every moment you lost. But you can own your future. And when you do, they can't laugh anymore. Because you're not even in the same room. So, if you're still waiting for them to change, still aching to be chosen, still hoping they'll finally say, you mattered. I want to say this. With all the love I never got back then. You already matter. You always did. You don't need their permission to become who you were born to be. And one day, you'll walk into a space so full of warmth, recognition, and love, and you'll realize that emptiness they left behind, it was just space being cleared for the life that's finally arriving. You survived. You rose. And now, you own the house. Not just the one made of bricks, but the one made of worth. Your house. Your rules. Your peace. And that's the real win.